What is the tea, y'all? We are here to talk about The Real Housewives of Atlanta, season 15, episode 4. Quiet as it's kept, there was much more on the Twitter and on the internet in general than there was in the episode, so that's more so what we're going to be talking about. I'm also very behind because, baby, it was just Memorial Day weekend, so it was just a lot going on. So I'm trying. Please work with me. They are kind of rehashing what happened last episode. Like they're referencing it a lot, like what happened at the City Winery after the performance. And we kind of jump immediately into Kenya talking about this performance that she's doing with Mayetta. We get another deleted or not shown scene at the City Winery where she talked about it, saying that they were going to go to Alabama for this, that, and the third, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know why we couldn't have gotten that last episode, but okay, girl. Like, whatever. I'm really just going to skip right to the point of them getting to the trip. There was just nothing else. I'm not going to talk about Sheree going to the doctor. That's great, like, real life story for her or whatever, but there's nothing else really there. Drew was sick, Kandi was working, so let's go to Alabama, girl, and let's see what it gives. We get to Sheree's house. The girls are getting on the bus. Everybody's running late. I don't really know why they showed that, like everybody running late, because Kenya wanted to leave at 10:15, and they were doing the timestamp thing of like everybody showing up late. I know, like, historically, we've done that on Atlanta a lot because the girls are typically late on Atlanta, but it will be followed up by, like, an argument or something like that, but it wasn't really acknowledged at all. So I don't know why that was necessary, but we did that. The girls show up. They're going to Alabama. I actually enjoyed the group. Like, obviously, I love Kandi. I love Drew. I like Drew. But, I enjoyed the group. I thought that it seemed like it was going pretty well. They got on the bus. They talked about eating booty, which is not really something I need to hear from them. But, that was interesting. I'm glad that they were having conversation, I guess. You can tell that Kenya was very invested in the event going well, and she was very excited about it. I think that it was kind of lost on the audience, though, because again, they cut out the initial scene of her even introducing this idea to the group and telling us why we were going and what the hell was going on. But in this episode, it did seem like she was very invested in just being involved and being there on time and being professional, and like it was a big deal to her. So that was good. I thought it was fun that they showed up and did the dance class. That was fun to watch. I thought it was interesting when they judged it, though, and Marlo lost. She was like, "These girls hate me," and it's just like, "Girl, your insecurities are showing very well." But we're gonna get into that for sure. There was another moment where obviously Kenya had told Sheree, "Well, you won the dance competition, so you get the bigger room." And Sheree got to the hotel, and she's like, "Well, this isn't a suite," but that didn't really play out. And then Marlo was reading the room, talking about how, not reading the room, but like reading the room. She had this mini bottle of champagne, and that's not how you do a trip. And it's just like, she started referencing the trip that they took last season that she hosted, where they were there for 24 hours and then she canceled it. So I don't know. And then she's acting like she pulled out all the stops and paid for all that stuff. Girl, that was a production paid for trip. Be quiet. It was just so much in this episode that it just felt like they were just doing it to do it. I don't really know why it was happening. The episode wasn't episoding for me. This was an interesting thing. Finally, I guess, what is this, 40 minutes into the episode? They're not really talking about anything. Like, I do want to say, like, at this point, they have been having fun, which is great. But now it gets to a point where, we want to reference back to City Winery. And King is like, well, I heard that there was some beef at City Winery. Like, ain't nobody saying nothing, so let's chit chat about that. And it just seemed like Marlo was already on the fence. From what I saw, it felt like Marlo was embarrassed by what had happened, so she just didn't want to talk about it. Like, she was already very irritated when Kenya started talking about it. So I think there were two triggers there. She was embarrassed by what had happened, and so she didn't want to talk about it. And two, it was something that Kenya was bringing up. And whenever Kenya speaks, period, it triggers Marlo, but we're also going to get into that later. So even in this instance, like when King is bringing it up to discuss with the group, it definitely didn't feel like it was a target on Marlo, and it didn't feel like it was supposed to be this big thing. Like it literally was the beginning of the dialogue, and everybody was already kind of sitting there like not saying anything, but Marlo is pissed and she's talking over Kenya and making it a thing. And Kenya's like, girl, like, I haven't even been not nice to you. I haven't been giving you energy. Like nothing has happened. I'm literally just opening up a dialogue about something that occurred. And Marlo was pissed. So, first red flag. What irritated me, like the production on this show, it just sucks. It sucks. Like, and I have a lisp, so there are extra S's there, and I mean each and every one of those extra S's. Like, it sucks so bad. Like, I'm not understanding what's happening back there. So basically, we get to a point where King is like, well, girl, I wasn't there. I'll clarify. I know you're upset. I was not there, but I was told, and there were other people around who attested to the fact that you were talking to, Drew, and it was giving stand up over her aggressive vibes. And Marlo immediately is like, well, no, I didn't stand up over her. I wasn't being aggressive. And production shows this small little bit of the clip of the beginning of Drew and Marlo's conversation from last week, where Marlo's sitting down and Drew was just like, well, girl, I don't see what the big deal is. Like, that was the very beginning of the episode. So my whole thing is, y'all have referenced this altercation between Drew and Marlo several times now. We're only on episode 4. Y'all have showed that clip over and over again. Obviously, the crux of last episode was the beef that was happening behind City Winery. Y'all also did that goofy thing where you're like, oh, 30 minutes after production wrapped, and you're showing us. So you're making a note of showing us this is obviously important. But now King is bringing it up, and sure, she had a small mischaracterization of what happened because she was not there, which she said. But then y'all want to show a clip to show, like, oh no, Marlo wasn't standing up, like she wasn't. At the end of the day, we know what happened. Marlo got into Drew's face and she was aggressive. It's on the season trailer. It happened last episode. I showed it in the clips of what happened last episode. Previously on Real Housewives of Atlanta, like, it's everywhere. So I'm just not understanding. Like, that just didn't make any sense to me. I just don't know. I feel like when it comes to production, right? Like, y'all are trying to show us a story for the episode. Like, so what is the story? Like, I'm confused. Like, what is this episode supposed to be conveying? Like, what are we doing? So that was confusing to me. That was silly to me because at the end of the day, we know how that conversation ended up. And Marlo was being incredibly aggressive and she bucked at Drew in her face before she left out. So I just think that was a waste. Maybe there was nothing to show in this episode, so that's why we got silly stuff like that. But then that's what always blows me. Like, it seems like they give us this filler stuff because maybe there's not enough content, but then we get 45 minutes of unseen footage all the time. Like, oh, this also happened, but y'all didn't see that. Like, that just doesn't make sense. I would love to get back there with production and just understand the system. Maybe it's me. Like, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but for me, it just doesn't make sense. I don't even know that they feel like they're putting episodes together. It just kind of feels like they're combining clips, and we're just going to see where it lands. At the end of the day, we didn't really get anywhere with that conversation because she was so pissed. So it turned into a back and forth over Marlo being pissed for absolutely no reason. The event, we really don't even need to touch on that. Like, this episode, the context was not contexting. I understand that they were filming and all this other stuff. I'm sure that they knew if they were inviting Kenya that there was going to be some filming involved or whatever the heck, or maybe they got a heads up. I'm not sure. But whatever. They ended up not wanting them to be there and not film. They were a distraction. That was all kind of cringy. And they asked them to leave. At the end of the episode, we see, this small, maybe I blinked for a little bit too long, but it feels like they jumped right into this thing of, well, Kenya has left the group to go to her room, and they were doing like a flashback to like last season or whatever it was, or other instances where Kenya has left the group to go just be and do Kenya, which is fair because we have seen that happen before, but it felt very rushed as if it really didn't even matter. Then we get the ladies going to Kenya's room like, oh no, we're not dealing with that now. Like, if we have to film, we have to work, then she's going to work too. Fine, fair, I got you. This sounds like a story to me, let's lean into it. But at this point, we have 3 minutes left of the episode, and there's no context that has been given for this. And they start banging on the door, and I think there was a moment where, like, was it Sheree? I wanted to be Sheree because y'all know Sheree gets on my nerves, and I think it was Sheree. But Sheree also kicked like a little bit of the door, like snuck a little kick in. Like, it was all so very childish for them at this big age, and it was crazy to watch. And even when like Kenya was screaming back like, "Girl, my daughter's in here. Like, what do you have going on?" Like, it just felt like the girls were just snickering and kiki and cackling at it. Like, that was crazy to me. Like, girl, because even if it didn't just have anything to do with Kenya, like maybe we don't all like Kenya, but this is a hotel. So are there not other people around and you're kicking her door and yelling in the hallway? Like, what is going on here? Like, this just, it just didn't make any sense. And I hope that Kenya read them for filth, like the whole entire group. Like, y'all got this girl out here kicking on my door. Whether my daughter was in here or not, I don't even care if my daughter was in here or not. Why are you kicking on my door? Have you lost your mind? And have y'all lost your mind sitting in the hallway doing this? Like, girl, what are y'all doing? Go do something else. I don't even know why we got this episode. Like, it was Memorial Day weekend, girl. Y'all should have just took the break. Honestly, like, whoever is the powers that be should have watched this episode and said, you know what, we can wait on this. Let's shelve it. Or let's even skip it. Let's make this whole episode a flashback. We love doing that, right? We love deleted scenes. Next episode, let's just reference this episode, right? And then let's just keep moving. So on to the real tea, because the real show happens on Twitter and on YouTube and on Speak on it. The real tea is that the girls are pissed at Marlo. I've been saying this. I'm glad that it's getting some light now. Like, nobody dislikes Marlo, and I feel like we were all excited. I don't even know if I want to use that word, but it was cool for Marlo to get her peach. She's obviously been around since the beginning of time. It's very clear that she's wanted this peach. It's very clear that she, has just been Marloing, trying to figure it out. So finally, the girl got the peach. Great, awesome, do something with it. And she's not. It's just very apparent that she's been looking for the approval of these other women. And because she's not getting it, she acts out. Marlo is one of those weird people where, like, she wants to be a part of the group. She wants friends. She wants to be in it. But as soon as you're not validating her every minute of the day, she's being weird towards you and, like, shading you and just doing weird stuff, talking behind your back. So it's just like, why would anybody want to root for you when you act like that? Like, your insecurities scream so loudly. It was interesting to see, like, I watched Carlos King's review, and I love watching Carlos King's reviews, but I don't always feel like his opinion is rooted in rationale.
Because you suffer from Kenya Moore PTSD, Kenya can breathe. Kenya can say twirl. Kenya can say I'm fabulous. And no matter what Kenya says out of her mouth in direction towards you, you will always take that as Kenya's trying to check you.
You don't watch reviews to agree with people, but, like, I don't always understand it either. However, this time he was very clear, and as he says, as a friend of Marlo, he was very clear that he knows that Marlo is looking for the validation of Kenya and of these other housewives, and she doesn't get it, so she's lashing out and she's coming off as bitter and she's looking insecure. Like,
she wasn't checking you, but you're gonna have to check yourself. It's coming across like you're bitter.
these are all things that I've been saying since last season, so it just felt amazing for that to be highlighted. Because I'm like, am I tweaking? Like, is anybody seeing that what I'm seeing? Like, this lady is literally, like, throwing a temper tantrum because nobody's rubbing her back and saying, "Oh, Marlo, you're doing great. You're the greatest housewife of all time." Like, girl, stand up. Do that for yourself. Carlos even said, like, he made a really good point. Like, it would be fair for her to have done that last season, her first season, right? Because she's stepping into this new lane and she's wanting to be respected as a housewife, not as a friend. But now this is your second season and you didn't get it last season. You know, even when y'all went on that trip and you chased Kenya around the house because she's been paying you dust, like, you're not getting it. And that should have been clear. Great that you're on the show, but you're acting like an asshole. And so we're not going to be like, "Oh my God, we love you being here." Like, we can't do both. Once you realize that that was the dynamic, if you weren't going to come back and be cool with the ladies and you were going to stake with the same energy of, like, shading them and reading them behind their back and being silly with Sheree, then you need to stand up on your own 2 feet and you need to do what you got to do. You need to accept your role and just be whoever you're going to be on the show. at the end of the day. It just doesn't make sense that you're expecting these ladies to like be a friend to you and you're not a friend. That also brings me to like this whole thing with Kandi. Like, back to the episode being the silliest thing that I've ever seen in my life.
I told y'all I do not like them.
For them to allow Marlo to sit and film when she was doing this Halloween costume thing, she's sitting there talking to Courtney and her sister. First of all, whenever I see Marlo's sister, I always feel so bad because that lady seems like she got so much sense. And it just seems like when she's having these conversations and these interactions with Marlo, I feel like I can see the cringe inside of her because she'd be like, what the hell is even going on? But I feel like she's there because she wants to support her sister on this show. It's her sister's job. But I think she knows that Marlo is full of shit. Even for Marlo to be sitting there, first of all, talking about, obviously her nephew being killed, and he had been raised with her sister. Like, it felt like her sister was kind of blindsided to that. Like, because Marlo even threw it in, was like, well, oh, she was raised with him, so she's very affected by this. You can see her sister getting emotional. Like, girl, you're literally using this as a storyline. And it doesn't even seem like you clued your sister in that you were going to do this. And now this poor lady is sitting here getting emotional in front of people that she don't even know because you want to use this as a moment to beef with Kandi. Like, that's so weird. And then the story is even changing. Like, first she's like, well, I'm upset because he worked for Kandi at OLG and OLG didn't send flowers. But then I guess T came out that he wasn't working for OLG at the time that he passed. So now the story has switched to, oh, well, the person that killed him, he met them at OLG. It's like,
You just made that up.
Marlo, like I can't even believe that conversation was being had. In the same way that production can jump in with Kandi and Ty, where they're like, "Oh, we're not going to discuss the elephant in the room." Can't nobody jump in and say, "Are y'all really talking about this silly?" Like, you can't be serious. This is crazy. At first, it felt like, okay, production is like, we'll talk about the Kandi restaurant stuff. Like, we need y'all to do this. But now it actually feels like Marlo is genuinely bitter at this woman and she's upset. Just like she was with Kenya last season. She's upset with Kandi now because it's like Kandi doesn't give me validation and Kandi doesn't act like I'm the greatest housewife of all time and Kandi doesn't champion my bullshit. Like, I think she feels like Sheree is a friend to her because Sheree is not somebody who's gonna hold you accountable and tell you as a friend, like, girl, that's not a good look. Because Sheree doesn't even hold herself accountable for her own bull. So, Marlo's not used to people holding her accountable. And it's like, the fact of the matter is, Marlo, you come on here and you give bullshit all the time. It's always bullshit. But then you turn around and you want to be supported. And that doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense at all. I believe that production has seen how bitter Marlo is, and they're using that to say, well, we do want to get Kandi activated, so let's use the most bitter person on this cast who's upset that Kandi doesn't give her any shine, any attention, doesn't rub her back, doesn't have picnics with her, and let's use her to bring it up out of Kandi. But it is falling so flat because everything that Marlo is doing is such an emotional move and it just looks so silly. Like, you're so upset with Kandi for absolutely no rational reason at all. It's just simply emotions. And it feels like you're being used as a pawn to get that out. But both parties are losing. Like, all parties are losing. Production is a loss. Marlo is a loss. And the viewers are at a loss because I don't even understand what I just watched. What really pissed me off too about this exchange was that they're sitting there really going into depth about. Marlo even goes further to say, I don't know why Kandi keeps having these shootings. Why are we? My God. Why is that a discussion? And then they're even troubleshooting it. She's like, maybe she needs better security. Maybe, and Courtney jumps in, maybe it's the environment she creates. Like, Okay, do y'all want to work for Kandi? Like, do y'all want to go advise her? Because if that's what's going on, then great. Like, y'all are literally having a strategy meeting right now about the demographic at Kandi's restaurants. If y'all want to do that, go apply for a job and go have that conversation with Kandi. But we don't need to see that as viewers. It's not entertaining. And it doesn't lead anywhere. Like, where is this going? When Marlo first even said, like, does she need more security? My brain exploded inside because I couldn't believe that this was happening on my TV. That was the silliest exchange that I've ever seen. But I like that people have been able to highlight, like, we know what it is now. I don't even know anymore that it's Marlo coming on here trying to put on a show. I really think that this woman is upset, and I think that she is bitter, and her emotions are bleeding out onto this show, and it's just bad because she doesn't have anybody in her corner to be like, girl, you're being irrational and you're doing too much. She has Sheree and Sonya, and then production who's using it because I guess that they thought that this was gonna be good television. I think they thought that because Marlo was doing similar things last season with Kenya, but she was getting grace. And I don't think that production's reading the room. I don't think that Marlo's reading the room. She was getting grace from the audience because we're like, whether we like Marlo or not, she's been around, like I said. So great. She got her peach. Let's give her a chance. We're also giving y'all a chance as a whole because this show has not been doing as well as it should. So we are trying to give everybody grace. We can only do so much. The seasons are long enough, baby. It's been 4 episodes and I'm irritated. So I don't have much more grace to give. And I just wish that they would figure it out. Like, this whole Marlo thing needs to be rerouted. And again, I don't even think it's her anymore. Like, I don't think she's the one trying to put on the show. I think that she's genuinely in her fifis. And they're using that. And I would literally veer away from that. There is so much more that we need to do besides that. Like, don't nobody want to hear about that. And I love Mayetta, but Marlo did say, calling Mayetta Kandi's emotional support companion. That was funny. That was a cute little read. I don't agree with it, but I thought that was a cute little read. But other than that, she was just in her feelings the whole episode, and they could have kept that. The girls were dragging on her on Twitter and a fire Marlo thing, and then she's going in like getting into it, Mayetta on Twitter, which was tea, and I think everybody's on the same page now that Marlo ain't doing what she needs to be doing. And I just don't know what the route is going to be. I'm a little bit flustered by it. If y'all want to be able to enjoy this latest episode and get anything out of it, I would advise that you just go watch Speak on It and you go watch Carlos King's review. Obviously, you watch this review and, just piece it together from there, honey. The Twitter hashtag always does it for me, but the episode absolutely did not. It absolutely did not. I am excited to see the next episode just because I'm hoping that we'll get into this back and forth, I guess it's going to be between Mayetta and Marlo, maybe. But I don't even know if that's going to happen based on how the editing's been happening. But we'll see. That's all I have. I almost didn't do this review. I'm trying. I'm trying my best. I'm working with them. So I'm here. We did it. We talked about it. So leave comments down in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. I'm going to try to be a lot more optimistic next week because I'm working with these ladies. I really am trying. And we are going to see. So, comment down in the comment section, like and subscribe. And I will see y'all in the next one.